Autobots, I have arrived as a Studio Series figure. Finally, let's roll out! Where is everyone? What's going on, everybody? Republic Cinema here, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformers 1 Studio Series, Optimus Prime. Now, for the very first Transformers 1 character to be in the Studio Series, Optimus Prime couldn't have been a better option, as this just feels right. And he does look really good. If some of you remember, this was the very first TF1 Optimus Prime figure that got revealed right before the official teaser trailer for Transformers 1 came out. But the first time around, some people speculated that it was going to be a mainline release, as this looked a little odd to be a Studio Series figure because of the way the gray looked. But of course, it was quickly found out that this indeed was a Studio Series figure. And you know what? He's not too bad. He's miles better than the mainline Orion packs. Now, the character that this figure represents is going to be voiced by a different voice actor rather than Peter Cullen. I am not sure how that's going to play out, but I'm sure it's going to play out just fine. It will surely be interesting to see the origin of Optimus Prime, and I hope it is done justice. As of course, this is Optimus Prime we're talking about here. The gentle truck we all know and love, but also deadly if you grew up with this Optimus Prime. But before we take a look at the figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging. So starting off on the front is this nice CG rendition of Optimus Prime from Transformers 1. And of course the rest of the cover is all words, names, and logos. On the top is that nice looking TF1 logo slapped onto the top of a Studio Series box, looking really cool, as this is the first time we ever get to see the Transformers 1 logo on a Studio Series box. And like usual, on the bottom is all boring. On the side is Optimus Prime again, and on the other side is a more zoomed in look to his face. And then you turn to the back and you get a little bit more info on what you get inside the packaging, and of course the bottom is boring. With that being said, for the box art, we can now take a look at the figure. So starting off, painting and sculpting is pretty good. The sculpting, I must say, is quite impressive, as it is a breath of fresh air for the design of Optimus Prime, especially if this is the first Studio Series Deluxe class Prime. The painting, however, well, the red and blue is just fine. It's just whatever this type of gray they decided to go with does make this figure look a little off. To some people's eyes, this looks like a discoloration, and I don't blame them. I'm sure if this figure had some silver shading on what is the discolored-ish gray bits over here, let alone some gray, this would have looked much better. But either way, this still looks pretty good, and that head sculpt looks nice. Almost looks as if it's one of those head sculpts where you could swap his battle mask out for his normal face, but that's not true. That face swap gimmick did unfortunately not make it to this figure. Maybe the leader class Optimus Prime? But let's be honest, who's gonna pay 80 bucks to find out? So quality wise is a-okay. The joints are not too tight, not too loose. However, I will say that when moving the legs up and down, this skirt piece will untab. In case you find the skirt annoying, you are given the chance to remove it. However, I don't recommend removing the skirt, as it does make this figure's crotch look a little weird. Now for the alt mode kibble, well, it's not all that bad, but there are these two bits of kibble between the legs, and of course this backpack kibble, which I believe is supposed to be accurate, but overall the kibble is no big deal. It is quite impressive how they handled the alt mode kibble, as the alt mode bits on the legs tab in nice and snug, they won't move around, whereas with this one on the other hand, it doesn't necessarily tab into anything, but also as far as my copy goes, doesn't necessarily move around like crazy. But since it does move up and down without tabbing into anything, say Optimus Prime jumps down from a high place, and while he's falling down, the wind is pushing this thing upwards. That's kind of useless information the way you look at it, but for my stop motion animators out there, in case you are animating Optimus Prime jumping down from a high place, I guess you can get a little creative. So as far as QC goes, pretty good job. Now moving on to accessories. So starting off real quick with the smokestacks, which can also go on a swivel joint, but are also, of course, removable, which of course you could have Optimus Prime dual-wielded, or have him go full-on Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you have Prime holding the smokestacks like this, you can pose him in a way where he's about to ignite fire onto Megatron, or at least that's what I believe he was trying to ignite it onto. Now, unfortunately, this is not blast effect compatible, but say you have a blast effect that is 5mm compatible, you can have it rest on the tab right there, and you could have something like this. I say resting on the tip of the pistol as it doesn't necessarily tab in 100%, as those smokestacks are not 5mm compatible. But hey, this still works. And now moving on to his translucent Energon axe, which simply plugs in onto the hand, and he does look pretty good with his axe. As you can see, TF1 Prime's battle axe does take inspiration from the G1 Optimus Prime's battle axe. Only this time around, it's blue. Which I much prefer because blue is my favorite color, but that's kind of my own opinion. Would it surprise you if it's also blast effect compatible? And since there is this 5mm slot right here, you could have it in a way where if you were to, say put a blast effect right there, it looks as if Prime is deflecting a blaster shot. Now, one thing to point out is that unfortunately, the mainline Orion Pax's battle axe is not compatible with the Studio Series Optimus Prime's hand because, well, the slot is too small for this big hand to fit in. It would have been nice to have this guy dual wielded with 2 axes, but that's not the case. And for weapon storage, this is the only thing I could find for the axe, and this looks a little worse than the main line. At least the main line hides it well. As for this just looks weird. Moving on to the next accessory, it's something for the alt mode. It doesn't tab into anything, but it would be nice to see it tab onto the shoulder as if these were shoulder cannons for Optimus Prime. But all they simply do is, if you see that tab right there and these 2 slots on the bottom over here, they will just simply slide into each other, which is a little easier said than done, and then close in to forget about. And then while moving this figure's articulation around, if you just so happen to move this guy's leg backwards, you could probably end up untabbing that. So yeah, the weapon storage for this was alright. Only if it had a little more secure tabs and slots, that would have been great. But the last accessory I want to touch on is the Matrix of Leadership. Come out. It's not coming out. And as you can see, the Matrix looks completely different from the Earthrise / 86 Hot Rod mold-ish for the other Matrix. As this time around, it does appear to be smaller and comes with these transparent tabs on each side, which of course that is for Optimus Prime to hold in, because they actually molded in some tabs onto the hands to hold the Matrix properly. So yeah, this figure pretty much has the touch. Let's put that back in, never to be seen again. Also, I like how this thing moves up and down too. So in case you're stop motion animating this guy's chest moving up, it does add a little bit more expression to when it opens up and closes down. But with that being said, I believe that's pretty much it for the accessories. Now moving on to articulation. Starting off, ball joint at the head, which can allow for the head to move up and down, and swivel. Also, this thing likes to move up and down too. Full rotation at the arm, butterfly joints, bend at the shoulder, bicep swivel, bend at the elbow, wrist swivel, waist swivel, front skirt moves out, which can allow the legs to spread. Leg can move forward, can also move backwards. Knee swivel, bend at the knee. The foot can rock from side to side. And lastly, this is primarily used for transformation, but the front of the foot can move up and down. And that's pretty much it. With the articulation out of the way, we can move on to size comparison. Starting off with some Prime changers, here he is next to Orion Pax, Alpha Trion, Sentinel Prime, B127. Moving on to some other Primes, here he is next to the mainline Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime, the Studio Series Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime, Studio Series Bumblebee Movie Optimus Prime, Studio Series Gamer Edition Optimus Prime, Studio Series Bayverse Optimus Prime, Reactivate Optimus Prime. Here he is next to what I thought was the tallest Deluxe class Optimus Prime, the Universal reissue of the Dark of the Moon Deluxe class Optimus Prime, Evasion Mode Optimus Prime, the Premier Edition Optimus Prime, and lastly the Studio Series Concept Art Bumblebee Movie Megatron. And the gang's all here. Wait a minute, where is everybody? At this point, we'd have a bunch of Studio Series Transformers 1 figures. Where did all of them go? I mean, yeah, there's the Studio Series Megatron from TF1 that's supposed to drop sometime later this year. But what about everyone else? Oh, that's right, they're all coming next year. And it's not going to be as many Studio Series figures for TF1 as there's going to be with Rise of the Beast, because most of the budget is going to a G1 figure. That, of course, being Studio Series Devastator. Make of that what you will. And now I think it's time we get down to transformation, which is interesting, but alright. So starting off, what I recommend you do is rotate the head and then move it down and then push this whole section in. After that, open this back section up, rotate, push this up, and then you come over to the grills, push them out. After that, untab the shoulders, move it down. In case the chest finds itself open, make sure it's closed, and then after that you can go ahead and push that in and make sure that this slot pegs in onto that tab right there. Same process applies with the other side, and then close that down. After that, rotate this entire waist section, and then now it's time we work on the legs. Starting off with one side, push this down, and then shift this entire section, and make sure it's facing outside. Make sure this is straightened. Once the other side is completely folded in, you're gonna wanna close both of them together. After that, push this skirt up, move this entire assembly up, and then after that, push it down. Make sure the thighs are duly straightened, so that way these tabs can close in and the hands tab in onto these two tabs right here. And lastly, you're going to come to the front and the tabs on this piece right here will close in onto the front. And there you have Studio Series TF1 Optimus Prime in his truck mode. Now, I gotta say, this truck mode is pretty impressive, and the transformation was alright. I suppose there were certain aspects in the mainline Orion packs that seemed a little simpler than the transformation for the Studio Series Optimus Prime, but the transformation on this one is still alright. And hey, overall, painting and sculpting, pretty good, pretty good. Although you could see some robot mode kibble on the alt mode. Also, this figure does have some wheels which allow for it to roll from side to side, and in case you don't want the truck mode in battle mode, you could just retract these smokestacks right here and remove this, which is a little hard to do. For now, I'm just going to keep it in battle mode or stealth mode. Is stealth mode making a return in this movie? Also, one more thing for weapon storage, the axe does go on the same spot, but has a little bit of trouble trying to tab in, so for weapon storage for the axe, kinda sucks. The weapon storage did appear as if the axe was supposed to tab somewhere between the legs, but it doesn't show any of that over here, thus giving the weapon storage for the axe a huge L. For a brief comparison, here he is alongside the mainline Orion packs in his alt mode, and lastly here he is alongside the mainline Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime's alt mode. Obviously they are both fascinating truck modes, and looks like this is supposed to be scale accurate, probably not. I mean, if the driver compartment for the alt mode of the mainline Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime is a little taller than the driver compartment for the Studio Series TF1 Optimus Prime, then how would TF1 Optimus Prime look next to Rise of the Beast Prime? Will that mess up the scale? I suppose it doesn't necessarily matter, as there have been compromises scale-wise for the alt modes. As long as the robot mode is accurate in shape and size, we're good. It's okay to make a few compromises here and there to the alt mode, but not to the point where it messes up the alt mode. But anyways, out of these three alt modes over here, which one's your favorite? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And I think that's pretty much it. I think that's all I had to say for this guy. Overall, he's a pretty great Studio Series figure. Much better than the mainline, and was made to be better than the mainline. I most definitely recommend picking this figure up. And at the time of this recording, which I believe is the 27th of August, he is available on Amazon for 25 bucks. And I've also spotted him at Walmart not too long ago, so you may have a chance to find him at Walmart's. Targets, on the other hand, I think they've already sold out on that, which shouldn't be the case because these are level A figures. I suppose the next Studio Series TF1 figure to come out would be Megatron. And there also has been news of a Studio Series Elita being listed for next year, maybe. So leave a comment down below if you guys are hyped for the new Studio Series TF1 figures next year, let alone Studio Series Megatron coming soon. And with that being said, if you like what you saw in this video, be sure to slam that like button, share this with your friends as well, turn on post notifications so that way you don't miss another upload, let me know how I did in this video, and most importantly, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. See ya!